Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and esteemed guests. I'd like to make a fair assumption that most of us in here are sensitive to a specific subject or topic. The topic that one of the topics, I should say, that I'm extremely sensitive to and that is extremely disturbing and makes me feel sick at times, and I'm kind of feeling that right now, as you can see, is human trafficking. There's times where I have told myself, don't look at articles, don't look at the news, don't read any more about it, because I will literally have nightmares about this for days. My husband will wake me up in the middle of the night and say, why are you screaming? What's going on? And I'm like, oh, it's because I saw this article, I saw this, and it's so disturbing to me. So the reason why I chose this topic is to create awareness and to help me shed some light as to what's going on with human trafficking. The Council of Europe states that people trafficking has reached epidemic proportions over the past decade, with a global annual market of about $42.5 billion. That's extremely alarming to me. This criminal business feeds on poverty, despair, war, crisis, and ignorance. But don't be fooled, it can happen to you, it can happen to any one of us. It doesn't necessarily need to feed on poverty and despair. It's actually happening in our backyards, and I'll tell you more about it. It is also the fastest growing criminal industry in the world, second largest, first one being the drug industry. This is another alarming fact here. In 2007, the trafficking industry generated $32 billion, which Nike, Google, and Starbucks combined didn't even generate. Again, isn't this very alarming to you? It's mind-boggling and it's sickening and it really scares me, and this just makes me think of, okay, we need to come to action. We all need to figure out a way to help this out, because if we don't, we will be affected by it somehow. It'll be someone we know or someone in our community. So you're wondering, where is this happening? Some of us don't even know. I was pretty naive and oblivious to this. What's happening in our backyards? Here is a global hotspot of where most of it is prevalent for human trafficking, and I was pretty surprised to see the US on there, but after doing a little bit more research, I came to find out that most of the abductions and kidnapping happens in third world countries, but then they're trafficked to wealthier countries. So then it kind of made more sense as to why the US is one of the global hotspots on here. But another alarming thing about this study here, it states that it's low estimates because human trafficking is very difficult to track and measure due to the ways of how they really hide the human trafficking. So they do a very good job of hiding this. There's different types of human trafficking. There's forced labor, sex trafficking, child labor, commercial sexual exploitation of children, and child soldiers. I didn't bring too many images because, again, they're very alarming and very disturbing, and I'm very sensitive to them. But here's one just showing child labor, and it makes me think of my son. I have a 6-year-old, and it breaks my heart to see these young little kids being exploited this way. So again, I want to do something to help this cause, and my first step here is to create that awareness. So the impact that these victims receive is they have very limited access to basic necessities such as water, shelter, food, health care. They are subject to physical, psychological, and social impacts. They suffer from serious health risks such as HIV, unwanted pregnancy, mental illness, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, insecurity, fear, and the list goes on. I mean, they're also high risk for suicide. Ostracism is another product of human trafficking, and it also affects us nationally and internationally because it impedes national and international growth. So I invite you to take action. Very first thing to do is to become informed. Learn a little bit more about what's going on. I guarantee you, if you do a Google search, you will find a case of human trafficking here in Phoenix. Learn how to identify it. I mean, again, I was oblivious to it, but now seeing the prevalence of it here, prostitution is another form of human trafficking. And I've seen pimps and I've seen these things go on, and I didn't know how to go about them before. So I'm a little bit more informed now. Become a part of a group or a community that fights human trafficking. You don't have to do this alone. If you don't have the resources or the methods, you can become a volunteer or an intern at these groups. And best of all, help spread that awareness. To get started, I'm leaving you here with some links. I found some really good information on here. One of them that really stuck with me was this slavery footprint. I found that we ignorantly contribute to human trafficking, and it starts with even chocolate. There's a documentary that I would recommend for all of you to see. It's called The Dark Side of Chocolate. You'll learn a lot of how we ignorantly contribute to child labor and human trafficking. And I'll close with this quote. It's very easy to side with the perpetrator. All they ask from us is our silence. Madam Toastmaster.
Wow.